Zach, on behalf of me and Pete, we want to welcome you here. Serve twice by choice.
Appreciate it.
It's our podcast where we want to get veterans and first responders together to talk about their stories, whether it be in the military or as a first responder. We want to recognize heroes and people who have done good things. We welcome you to Chicago. Marine Corps.
Marine
You
Corps.
joined the Marine Corps what year?
I was in 2004.
2004?
Right.
Why the Marine Corps?
I had a lot of friends and family that were joining the military. When I was younger, obviously 9/11 happened. So I was a freshman in high school, and even at a young age, I had the feeling of, man, I need to do something. This is hitting home. So I had that urge to want to serve and want to help the people that, I mean, even though I don't know these people, they're still my people. You know, they're Americans that are in need of help, and I wanted to be there.
Just like that, a lot of Americans felt the same way,
Yeah.
joined because of that, because of what happened with 9/11.
Right.
Now, did you go in? Was there anyone before you, family members that were military?
My father served in the Army. He tried to convince me to go to the Army, I guess, just to kind of keep his thing going. But I just always drawn to the Marines. I had some cousins that were joining, some friends that I had gone to school with, they had joined. It was a difficult role for me to go. I tried at 17 to get my parents to sign for me, but they wouldn't do it. And so pretty much, I think on my 18th birthday, I went and signed myself up to go.
So you had to be 18?
I had to be 18.
Yourself?
I had to enlist myself, yeah. At 17, my parents could have signed, but they weren't having it then.
Right,
so.
right. What if you were going to the Army? Would your dad said, okay, I'll sign
He probably would have done it, yeah. It probably would have been a little easier decision for him to make. One of my grandfathers served in the Marines, and then my mom's stepfather was in the Navy. So we do have a line of military in our family.
Was your grandfather in any of the wars?
No, he was on a ship. He was one of the aircraft controller guys.
Okay.
So every time we see Top Gun, we see the guys over there doing all the little signals. He was him doing that.
Oh, that's cool though. That's a cool movie too.
Yeah.
Waiting for the second one to get released, right? It's coming out soon?
I think it's, this week or something like that. It's pretty soon.
Yeah, it's coming out soon. You want to ask about boot camp?
Yeah. So, did your dad tell you about like his basic training? You know, Army, you call it basic training, Marines boot camp.
Yeah.
You know, so how was your boot camp? Was it what you expected it to be?
I mean, I think the big thing about any boot camp really is you really don't know what to expect. You know, hear stories about, you know, this and that and how, you know, of course, all the older ones and, man, they used to beat us all the time, kind of the same as my parents. We used to walk, you know, 12 miles in the snow uphill both ways kind of thing, you know. It was a shock for me because, you know, I've always been at home and I wasn't at home and I didn't know anybody there. So it was kind of like, obviously I miss my grandmother, I miss my brothers and sisters, I miss my parents. So it was definitely an adjustment that I had to get used to very quickly.
What was your favorite part, you think?
The friendships, because there were some guys I was in boot camp with that I ended up doing a couple of deployments with, you know, all the way until I got out. And I still talk to some of those guys today. So it's, like I said, it's been since 2004. They were still good friends.
Now, you're a bigger guy now. How much did you weigh? Because that picture, you look like a smaller guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always been on the bigger side. So that was a challenge too in itself to get myself in shape to even get to boot camp. I remember my recruiter took away my meal tickets when I went to MEP because he was like, dude, you have to lose weight. And he made me drink this magnesium citrate drink the night before, and I was on the toilet for pretty much most of the night. And then that next morning, I ended up being like 5 or 6 pounds underweight, so I was eating everything I could, you know, after that. But I lost a lot of weight in boot camp. And then throughout my military career, like I stayed in pretty good shape, you know, and then obviously afterwards and...
Well, it's expected. You're not as mobile. I mean, right. Everyone knows that. So everyone's got, probably you too, Pete. I know he's an Army dog, but everyone's got their favorite movie or movies you watched before you went into boot camp. Like, this is going to motivate me. This is going to pump me up. Like, Full Metal Jacket was one of them. Boys of Company C. Right. Did you have one?
Yeah, I think Full Metal Jacket's usually a go-to. At least the first, 20 minutes of it, 20, 30 minutes. The whole boot camp scene. Heartbreak Ridge, that was always another one.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, for me that did it because I always looked up and like, man, this is what it's gonna be like. I'm gonna do this one day. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I want to be like them.
I watched everyone I could find.
Right.
Heartbreak Ridge. Sneed, was it Sneed? The big muscular dude.
Swede. Yeah,
Swede.
The Swede. And then now afterwards, after all my military experience, now all the military movies come out. I was like, that's not the way it happens.
No,
I find myself being very critical.
Totally different.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny. I went in on the buddy program.
Okay.
Right. So I don't. God rest my parents' soul. My dad, I don't think ever found out about it. The day we were supposed to go in, the night before they take you downtown.
Right.
We were at the Congress Hotel, and they said, anyone smoke weed between this time and that time? And half the people in there fucking raised their hand.
Right.
So they had to delay us a week. We had to take this waiver, sign it. Parents had to sign it. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I told my dad that they were fucked up with the paperwork, so we had to wait a week. So we finally get in, right? We're in San Diego. We're in the big auditorium. Where'd you go to boot camp at?
San Diego.
San Diego. We're sitting there, and they're moment of truth again. We're like, oh, fuck, we went through this.
They're trying to get you.
Don't change your mind now. Well, I didn't smoke any weed between that last time and the time before, and my buddy must have. Because they said, if you're smoking weed between this time and that time, come on down here. And he was going to get up. I'm like, no, don't go. We did this already. He's like, I'm going down. Never seen him again.
Wow.
There was no more buddy system. He got kicked out of the Marine Corps. He was an Army reservist, I think, and he got out of that because they thought he was in the Marine Corps. I seen him like 6, 7 years later. I go, hey, motherfucker, you left me standing there by myself. Because I had hair back then.
Right.
And when they shaved my head, I was like, what the fuck did I just do? You second guess yourself part of the boot camp,
Oh,
right?
for sure. Yeah. The first time they're in your face and something like that, it's like, oh shit, like I got 3 months of this. Like, what did I do?
And they do a good job. They build you up little by little,
absolutely.
get you a little pride.
Yeah.
Your blouse in your pants.
Then they know how to break you down too, and then get you back up to where you need to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Tip over all the bunks and all that good shit. So you're out of boot camp. Do you deploy right away, or is there a war going on, or is it semi-peacetime at this time?
No, it's still going on. Especially in Fallujah, where I deployed to twice. It was pretty heavy there. Obviously the initial run for Fallujah was going on. After boot camp, I went to Fort Leonard Wood. I was a motor T operator, so a driver. Did school there, and then we did our MCT, and then I went to Okinawa, Japan. I originally had orders to Hawaii, and then the day before we were supposed to leave, they took them and gave us orders to Okinawa. So I, grew up watching Karate Kid and stuff like that. I was like, heck yeah, I'm gonna go see all this stuff and do all this stuff, and it was actually amazing.
How long were you in Okinawa?
2 years.
2 years?
2 years.
Jeez, I thought I went twice, 6 months each time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never seen any war, so I'll clarify that right now. But I was in peacetime. There was always that little threat. They scared you if they were just fucking with you.
Right.
I want to get on a parade deck. We're going to war. And you're like, what the fuck? Yeah. But no, I was there twice, and I enjoyed it.
I did. Yeah. I was 19, and single at that time, so I had.
Did they still have beer machines in the barracks?
No, they took those out.
They took them out, and I was fortunate.
They did have 25-cent pitcher nights though at the E Club.
I think it was like a quarter or something a beer when I went in, out of the machine in the barracks.
Yeah, it was. They had pitchers for 25 cents on. I think it was on a Thursday night. But after all the fights and stuff they were dealing with, they took that away from us.
What base were you on in
Camp Hansen?
Hansen?
Yeah.
All right, I was at Mateo, and then finally 370 disbanded, and that's right when I was getting out.
Okay.
So now you're overseas. You're in Iraq.
Right. Yeah. So my first deployment came from when I was in Okinawa. So they pulled us into a room and said, "Hey, here's the deal. They're starting to form teams to go to Iraq. Who wants to go?" So they said, either use your chance first, or we're just going to start filling spots, Right. So I raised my hand because I remember that feeling of seeing 9/11 happen on TV and remembering, like, this is why I signed up. This is the true reason that I am here. Like, I want to serve. I want to do my part.
Right.
So I raised my hand, and they put us together. I just found out I was going to be a father for that at that time too. So afterwards, I had a lot of stuff running through my mind. Am I making the right decision? Like, am I ever going to get to meet my kid? Because at this time, you're hearing the casualty rates that are coming in at phenomenal numbers. Excuse me, the people that are getting hurt. So it's definitely running through my mind, and kind of like you did in boot camp. Did I make the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? But we went Fallujah. This time it was 05. And then, so that time we were providing security for a hospital. So we did the hospital security, dignitaries that came in, and then we'd go back and forth to the flight line. So.
And this is your first tour?
First tour, yeah.
What's the deployment time you were there?
Supposed to be 6 months, but it could be anywhere 7, 8 months, depending on when your relief unit is deployed to get to you, plus all the training that we got to pass on to them. But that's the first time I ever had somebody else's blood on me. And when it really hit me that this isn't just TV. This isn't bullshit you see on a movie. This is not just a story. Mm-hmm. This is real life. We're carrying people from the helos, trying to get to an ambulance so we can take them to the hospital. Yeah. And then, like I said, I looked down afterwards, like, man, this is somebody else's blood. This is real. This is real life. And then we were next to the morgue. So unfortunately, we had to see body bags that were getting ready to go out. You know, somebody's son, somebody's father, somebody's, you know, husband, something like that. So that's when it really set in, you know. And then my son was born a month after I got there, so it was really tough on me. It's like, am I going to be in this body bag someday? Am I going to meet him?
Now, are you married yet, or just?
No, I wasn't married. His mother and I, like, we dated, but we were never married.
Yeah.
I think one of the good things too was my cousin was there when I got there. He was just getting ready to go home, so I got to see him finally. Every time I'd go to his camp, he'd be like, "Oh, he's on patrol." He'd go to find me, like, "Hey, he's gone." So finally, we got to meet up for like a week and go have lunch together, or dinner, or whatever. So it was pretty cool. Like you're talking about your buddy, like you saw him later, how small the Marine Corps is, how small the military is in general. I was walking down the city street and I hear, "Hey, Briseno," turn around, I'm like, "Zach." I was like, well, "Who the hell is this guy? A guy I went to high school with." I was like, "Dude, what the hell?" You know, like in a different country in a war zone, you see somebody you know.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that was the first time, and I went back to Okinawa. Finally met my son when I came home, and then finished that tour. Went to Camp Lejeune. A couple months. I was bored. I was like, "Yeah, is anybody going back to Iraq? Like, I want to go."
How old was your son when you finally came back home? Was he still infant? Like
he was 6 months old. Yeah,
6 months
the first
old?
time I ever met him. Yeah, 6 months old.
Around, I would suppose.
And I think I got to come home one other time for his first birthday while I was in Okinawa. I got to go home.
Okay.
So spend the birthday
That's
with
a
him
long
and go
flight,
back. Yeah, I mean,
right?
it was worth it. I mean, I couldn't find much.
Do you remember going to and from Okinawa? Was the other company leaving on deck while you're getting off the plane and they're about to get on the plane?
Not in Okinawa.
No?
No. In Fallujah, yeah, like we were all excited. The new guys are here. Like, oh, fresh meat. Like, yeah, that's our sign. Like, hey, we're going home. It's
getting
almost
shorter.
over for us. Yeah.
It's shorter. Because
sure.
we would do it and they'd be singing like, "Mama, I'm coming home." And,
Right.
"Hey, I'm gonna fuck your wife," and all kinds of shit. They'd
All
be
the
talking
Jody,
shit.
yeah.
You're like, "Fuck you." And you second guess yourself again. Like, what
Right.
the fuck am I here?
Right. And I remember having that feeling when we were the new guys in country.
Yeah.
And those guys are like, "Shit, here you go. Good luck." You know,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what they're telling us. And finally had that feeling when we were done. So I was like, "Hey, here you go. Good luck. Deal with this." You know,
Right.
you get to deal with all this shit. But
Go ahead.
no. It was like,
So you're going back again the second time to Fallujah.
second time, yeah. At this point, we didn't know where we were going. We just knew we were going
And
back
what
to
year
Iraq.
was this?
This is back in 07. So
07,
first
okay.
deployment was from 05 to 06. And then
Okay.
this is back in 2007. Like I said, we don't know where in Iraq we're going. We just know we're going back to Iraq.
So did you have like a year off in between deploying?
Yeah, just
Okay.
a little bit of time. Like I said, I get to come home, Camp Lejeune, saw my family a couple more times after that. But
So you went from being a Marine in Pendleton to going back to Lejeune?
no, this was from Okinawa.
Okay.
And then from Okinawa, I went to Lejeune.
Okay.
Yeah, so I volunteered to go back because this guy had asked, "Is anybody else going back to Iraq? We got anything going on?" Like, yeah, as a matter of fact, we do. They were putting PIT teams, police transition teams, to train the Iraqi police. And there was 11 of us, and we were going to live out in the middle of town with the Iraqi police officers and their police station. And we were just training them on everyday kind of things. But it wasn't until we got there that we found out, I was like, hey, this is pretty sketchy because you really don't know who you can trust here.
Right.
You know,
You're
some of the
new to
police
town.
officers, yeah, they wouldn't show up for the whole month, but they show up on payday, you know.
So
it's
was it
like-
hard sleeping? Like, I can only imagine being in a town where you know there's a lot of explosions and stuff, and you fucking going to bed and you hear something or you think something, or you start putting in your mind, and you're like,
Yeah.
fuck.
Well, I mean,
They can blow this fucking place up.
yeah, well, I think it's kind of a sad deal that you kind of get used to it. You get used to hearing the gunshots and the mortars coming in. By the time you hear them, it's like, oh, that's outgoing. It's okay. When
too
you can
far
tell
out.
when the new people are, because any sound, they're hitting the deck, and it's like, oh shit, you know, because we were there too. But eventually, like I said, you get accustomed to it. And it's like, oh, it's outgoing. It's fine. It's okay, you know. And at this point, we lived out in the middle of town, so it was a building that we had taken over, or that had already been taken over. And the Iraqi people are our neighbors. You know, they
Yeah.
try to bring us food. The kids want to play soccer with us, or they'd ask for candy.
I noticed in your pictures, there's a lot of pictures you with kids.
Right.
Yeah. that was
Yeah, I
pretty
mean,
cool.
like I said, me being a father, and you know, I had nieces and nephews. Like, I feel bad for these kids. You know, they don't know. They want to go to school. They don't have schools to go to. You know, they're worried about getting killed just walking out of the doorstep.
Right. I can only imagine. Now, you're training the Iraqi police.
Right.
Are you, not to take this away from you, but are you qualified to train people, or
We
how does
had
it work?
we had civilian contractors who were police officers here in the States, and they also had some military experience. So they're with us.
Well, Pete's one of those guys that went out there.
Okay.
Where'd you go, Pete?
Yeah, well, I was working for the ATA program, which is the terrorism assistance. But when I was working for Blackwater, we were training a lot of Marines doing those kind of missions. They were coming in for more firearms training and stuff.
Okay.
So did they offer that training? You get some of that stuff a little bit more training before you head out, or you went straight from motor T right to that?
I went straight from motor T. So in the Marines, you get qualified to do more things. So I was also qualified to do machine gunner, and then I was a marksman for our team. So it's like little here, little there, you know, which I'm very fortunate that we did get that other training. But like I said, I mean, we get into an incident, and then the Iraqi police are nowhere to be found. I was like, hey, this is y'all stuff. You know, we're here to help you, not to do this for you. You know, we'll hold your hand for a little bit, kind of like being a parent, and then you eventually have to go off and do this on your own because I'm not going to be here forever, you know.
Yeah.
But like I said, they'll show up on payday. They're missing all their ammunition, but we know they weren't here using it for work. So that's what's kind of fishy about
You think they
some
might
of
have
them.
been giving it away? Like,
Either that or, I mean, they celebrate, you know, by shooting their guns in the air, but
Yeah,
they
yeah.
want to come for more. It's just like, no, like we gave you this for work, not for pleasure.
so it's like similar to like Black Hawk Down. Remember when in the streets, the guys checking out the gun, he's all,
Oh, for sure, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I mean, for weddings and, you know, celebrations or anything like that, they're just popping off rounds in the street,
No
you
kidding.
know? Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of, I don't know for sure, I've seen it in movies, maybe like Hispanic weddings, they do that. Out in the
Yeah, I
country,
think so,
they shoot
yeah.
their guns
I mean,
off, right?
Which is stupid because it's going to come down somewhere. You have grass in front of you, just pop
Yeah.
in the ground. But yeah, this deployment, like I said, it was different from the first. There was no in and out of the wire at this point. You know what I'm saying? We were out in the wire the whole time.
Right. You're exposed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we had, you know, just thicker truck windows as our, you know, protection.
Now,
sometimes.
these police officers, do they take the training serious or just
Some
half-ass
do.
it?
Some do. Some were very, very interested in what we're doing there, and some were very appreciative of what we were doing, and some just they could give a shit less. You know, it was sad to see that, but then some of them that did care, they would wear face masks all the time, and at first like, why do you do that? And they said because if they see that we're helping you guys or that we're working with y'all, they're gonna go hurt our family, or they're gonna hurt us, and they find out who we are. So it made sense, you know, and
Yeah.
I get it. And like I said, I feel sorry for them, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
You had interpreters with you and stuff like that?
Yeah, we had interpreters. There was an incident after I left the country that our guys told us, like, if it wasn't for the interp, like, they probably wouldn't be there. You know, that guy was very genuine in what he was there for. And I heard he even cried and took it very hard after I got hurt and he heard what happened. You know,
Really?
like it really messed him up. But that incident that they were on, they were driving down the street and a kid pops out of a corner and throws a grenade and hits my gunner in the head and falls down in the cab. The interp picks it up. He's like, "What's this?" And they're like, "Fuck, throw it out, throw it out." He hugs it. So he pulls it into him. And fortunately, the pin snapped in half, so it was still in the spindle, in the spool, so it didn't go off. But his first reaction was, "Hey, I'm gonna hold this."
He's gonna
like,
take it
here.
for the team.
He was absolutely gonna take it. So that's when, like, hey, I'll take you any day.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
some guys there that obviously we don't know what they're saying to the other people when we say, "Hey, ask him who he is," and they're carrying on like a 5-minute conversation.
Right, they're
What
not
are you
asking the right
saying?
question.
Right. Yeah, but like this guy, I mean, I'd trust him any day. You
That's
know?
awesome, yeah.
And like I said, even the civilians, there were some that
It's a good feeling being that far away and there's somebody you can kind of trust. You can
yeah,
let you know what's
absolutely.
going on.
And that's to say, some of the civilians, like you can tell they were there to help us. They appreciated that we were there. Some that would throw rocks at us. They were pissed, you
You
know.
remember the movie 13 Hours?
Yeah.
When they were watching the gate, they were supposed to be scared at the gate.
Yeah.
The other guys come in, they all took off
Yeah.
running. Like, what the fuck, where they going?
No. I was talking to one of the guys earlier. It's like they would stop our convoy from going down the street. Say, "Hey, stop! We saw some people doing something down there. There'd be an IED down there." You know what I mean? And some would be like, "Hey, come down this road." You know what I mean? So it's kind of
Oh, yeah.
yeah. There's
Double
some are
standard
pissed.
there, right?
Yeah,
Like,
some are
hey,
pissed, or
don't
some are
worry.
very appreciative.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Like I said, up until then, you see just movies and hear stories.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Right.
So we want to get into, obviously, the day that you got hurt.
Right.
29 November, 07. You're there how long now?
3 months.
3 months you're there.
Yeah.
And it's a 6-month tour?
It's supposed to be around 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
So 3 months, halfway into it, halfway home,
Right.
you can say. Start us off with your day that morning or the night before. What was going on? What was going through the head? Did you expect anything different? Normal day, normal routine?
Normal day. That the officer, the contractor we had, he'd live, a couple of days with us out where we lived, and then we'd go drop him off at the base where his actual little home was.
Now, this is an American contractor?
American
or-
contractor, yeah. So we were excited, like, hey, we're finally get a good meal. Like last time we'd been a couple days for like the Thanksgiving meal, they gave you like the near beer. So to us it was like, hell yeah, enjoy a little bit of normalcy, get some actual meal, hot meal, a good shower, use a nice restroom without having to worry about someone coming and pull the tin off you while you're sitting there squatting. So we were looking forward to that. It was around midnight. We did all that. We're heading back. I was in the front passenger seat, and I wasn't supposed to be. For whatever reason, I convinced my buddy to switch. Hey, let's switch, whatever. Sometimes we did that. He got out, and I got in. Talking to my guys is a normal thing. Like, hey, what are y'all gonna do tonight? Usually, like, play cards, play dominoes, write a letter, or huddle around the one laptop that we had that had shitty sound. So we're all like, trying to get real close to it. And all of a sudden, it's like an explosion goes off, and at first I was dazed. So if you've ever been like just hit right in the nose, you kind of get,
Sure.
teary-eyed, kind of dizzy a little bit. And in my mind, I knew what it was just because we've been around them, we've heard them, we've seen them. And I didn't feel any pain at that point. I just remember like that oh shit feeling, like, oh man, like we just hit one, we hit an IED. There's screaming going on, asking my guys, you okay? Like, yeah, we're good. Then I start feeling that, from waist up, like I'm on fire, something's burning, and waist down, it's stinging. And at this point, I had no idea like how severe it actually was. I remember it being real smoky, and I can smell the burning smell. And I remember trying to get my hands up to wipe my face, only this arm didn't make it. So when I went like this, I had broke both bones in my forearm, broke my wrist, so it was hanging down here, and I just remember seeing my fingers.
But you don't feel it.
No.
Because you think you're actually going to...
Right, yeah. I'm thinking I'm wiping my face, but like I said, I look and my hand's just dangling. I'm just doing this number here. I remember screaming. I remember telling the guys, like, tell my son I love him. Tell him I love you. Like I was telling Eli, I love you. I don't know if I'm going to make it or not. And like I said, I'm just like, adrenaline's going. I'm kind of freaking out. I remember seeing the street kind of go by. The door had blown open. And the only thing keeping me in was my buddy that was the gunner reaching down, holding me by my flak vest.
So your vehicle was still in motion?
Yeah, because we had to get out. So my guy was trying to drive any way we could to get out of the kill zone before we start getting shot at or other IEDs start going off, which they were set up to do. But I guess later on the OD guys said the explosion from ours knocked the wires off of it. What was the other supposed to blow up? But fortunately, that happened,
right,
and nobody else got hurt. So when I tell people that both my guys walked away without a scratch, I mean,
that's amazing.
It couldn't have gone any better,
Obviously, I mean, unfortunately, you got your
unfortunately,
accident,
but
yeah.
I'll take that. I'll take that any day again.
Because you hear a
if
lot
I
of
had
stories
to.
when this explodes, like everybody in dies, maybe one might survive.
Right.
And that guy was telling the story like I'm the only one surviving. He's got that guilt feeling going on.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think I had as much as that of the guilt because nobody else got injured.
Right.
And I guess when they set it off, it happened to be right underneath my seat when they set it off. And some of the OD guys told them, like, we don't know how he's still here. Like, it was an anti-tank mine. And, once we got to the safe zone, I guess, a buddy of mine that was supposed to go in the convoy didn't go. He was on the top of the roof smoking. He heard the explosion go off, goes to the radio room, hears us calling it in, like, hey, we got hit. This is where we're at. We're coming in. He grabs his stuff, runs out of our little gate that we have, and he's hauling ass to get to us as we're trying to drive up. And he said he turns around, he looks around, he's by himself. He's like, oh shit, but his goal is to get to us because he knows we're hit. Like I said, I didn't know how severe it was yet. One of my feet was in the street, one was in the back seat. So it was pretty bad.
Did they recover it?
Yeah, they said one guy gave it to my corpsman, and he was like, I don't know what you can do with it. Here.
It's not you miss a finger and they say,
put it on ice. Yeah. So they get to a safe spot. They try to pull me out of the vehicle. I guess at that point they weren't sure that I had lost my feet yet. When the floor of the Humvee exploded, it kind of mushroomed in, and my legs, what was left, was caught in that. So as they tried to pull me out, it was actually ripping more and more. And I remember letting out a scream, and they had to like put me back in and reach in one by one and kind of get me out so they can get me out in the street. Started doing the tourniquets, the morphine, stuff like that, talking to me. I remember hearing everybody, and I remember screaming out. Then I started, my vision started kind of blurring out a little bit.
Fading out?
Yeah. And then my buddy that was on the roof, tries to hold my hand, not knowing that it's broken. And he just to comfort me, kind of like, hey, we're here for you, we're helping you. Right. Yeah. And then, so I remember screaming as soon as he grabbed it, and he's like, what's going on, what's going on? And I told him, fucking hand, whatever. And then, for the longest time, he always apologized, and I always gave him shit for it. I was like, dude, you messed, You hurt my
no,
hand,
it doesn't
whatever."
work.
Yeah. But you know, every year on like my alive day, what we call it, when I should have died, I send those guys a text message, man, I love you guys, thank you, because I mean, I wouldn't be here.
That's awesome.
Would absolutely not be here for what.
So they get you out. They got a tourniquets right away.
Yeah, they're doing tourniquets. They're trying to see if everything else. And I was talking to a gentleman earlier. His buddy lost both of his legs in Vietnam, and he was like, "Man, it's the funniest thing." He's like, "Do you want to know the first question he asked? Like, he didn't give a damn about his legs." And I was like, "I bet you I know exactly what it is. Like, is my dick still there? Am I all there?"
Yeah.
You know, and he was like, "Yes, that's exactly what he said." And I've talked to other amputees who've been through the same thing. First question that comes out of everybody's mouth.
Really?
Yeah. So my corpsman checked, and I go, yeah, you're good, man. Yeah. So after that, it's kind of like, okay, cool.
This was, you said you were driving back to your base, or where were you at? Did they have to airlift you somewhere?
So we couldn't fly in at that point. I mean, obviously the buildings are so small together, so we had to wait for a QRF truck to come get us from Fallujah, from Camp Fallujah. And
obviously.
Yeah, it took a little bit for them to get there. And then the first stretcher they put me on, they tried to put me in the back of the vehicle, but it was too long. So then they had to take me back out, put me on a different one, then put me back in. But before all that happened, so my father had passed away a week before I left to go back to Iraq. So I mean, that was hard to deal with. You know, had his funeral and then left to go back right after that. They gave me emergency leave to go home to be there for the funeral before we deployed. I grew up in the Catholic Church. And then as I got older, I was like, man, this is boring. Like, why do I keep standing up, sitting down, kneel down, stand up, sit, you know? So I had a lot of questions. I questioned my faith a lot up until that point. And both of my parents, you know, battled addiction for drugs and alcohol. So I was kind of like, man, why am I getting put through this type of things? You know, and like I said, I questioned my faith a lot. Like, why is this happening? While my guys are kind of working on me, I said, like, my vision's kind of blurring out, going out a little bit. I saw a vision of my dad standing behind them, like not saying anything, not doing anything, just giving me kind of a reassurance look, like, you're gonna be okay, like, just relax, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's amazing.
They give me, and to me, it was like, holy shit! Like, there's a reason. There's a reason why I'm still here. Like, especially with the EOD guys, that they see these all the time. Like, we don't know why he's still here, because it's supposed to have.
Now, did that bring your faith back a little bit?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Like, it's just more like there's an absolute reason. There's a God, you know. There's a reason that I'm still here, whether it be my family, whether it be whatever else, you know what I mean. But there's an absolute reason for me to still be here, to have that that want to help people that I had when I enlisted, you know, to do that again. So they get me to the hospital. They get me, you know, I remember hearing. I want to say he was like a major, some high-ranking Marine. Hey, son, we're just here to check on you, make sure you're okay. You know, you're going to go home. They're going to take care of you. And then I remember flying to Balad, Baghdad, and then waking up in Germany. That was the first time I actually realized, like, hey, my legs are gone.
When did you pass? Excuse me. When did you pass out? You said you were in and out. You were starting to blink lately. You've seen the movies, you know.
Yeah.
Eyes going blink.
Yeah. So I think when they had me on the street, like, I was pretty close to flattening out. And they were like waking me up, doing whatever they had to do. That corpsman that we had was, I mean, not just to say it, he was probably one of the best that
I'll
does
tell you what,
his.
I give a lot of props to corpsmen.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially Marine Corps corpsmen. They got all the ridicule and the bullshit that you bust their balls all the time.
You couldn't touch our corpsman. You couldn't talk bad about him, not in front of us.
Yeah.
We wouldn't let it slide.
Yeah.
We did a workup in Camp Pendleton again, or 29 Palms. And they do like mock scenarios and stuff like that. And they had a guy who was a double amputee as an actor, role player, fake blood and everything. You know, the situation was we had to go in there, secure it. Our corpsman goes in there and works on him. This guy called timeout. He was like, wait. No bullshit. You are the best guy that's ever come through this scenario. Like, you had no hesitation. You knew exactly what you're doing. Yeah. And all of us were like, fuck yeah, he's coming with us.
I'm buying him drinks too.
Yeah. So we were, yeah. There was another guy when we were getting our weapons handed to us. Here's your M4, here's your M4. Another different corpsman. He was like, why do I need this? We were like, no, you're not fucking coming with me. Yeah. So he was like, no, I have my pistol. I was like, no, it's not happening. Yeah.
We were soldiers when he had a camera. He goes, here's a
guy. Yeah,
I'm
a non-combatant.
Yeah. Not today, you're not.
Not today. Yeah, no. Shit hits the fan. You're shooting the same way we're shooting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so we all had a really good feeling. Everybody had been there before. There's only 11 of us. One of those is a staff NCO, so we kind of did his own thing. But the rest of us, I mean, you couldn't pry us away from each other. You know what I mean? It was just that bond that we all formed, you know.
I think that's one thing about the Marine Corps, I'm not taking away from the Army, but they're more of a band of brothers than any other branch in military history.
Right.
Maybe Navy SEALs or special units, they're a smaller group though.
Right.
But you put Marines together and that's it. Don't fuck with that Marine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're all going to give each other shit, you know, all the branches.
Constantly.
But we know it's coming from, you know, a place of love. You know, it
Yeah.
may sound like, oh, why that guy's being an asshole, but we understand each other. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those
100%.
things, you know.
So do you come?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, you know, working with everybody, all these different branches, Marine Corps, you know, no matter I was in the Army and I get a lot of shit, and I deployed with the Marines, being the only Army guy, but the Marines stick together or closer bond much more than the other services. I mean, you could just see that, how you guys are all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate for the relationships that I've made, you know, and some of my best friends that I grew up with going to school and stuff, they're in the Army, they're in the Air Force, they're in the, you know, one guy played football for the Air Force, another one is Command Sergeant Major in the Army now, so I'm very proud of their accomplishments, and, you know, kind of the same as our corpsmen, like, you better not badmouth either one of them in front of me.
And you see it with the 2 Vietnam veterans.
Yeah,
You're a Marine, man, that's all they care about.
Dude, and
You're a Marine.
I love being able to be in the presence of you know, guys that served before me, or men and women. You get to hear their history firsthand. You know, I didn't just read it in a book, or I didn't watch a documentary. To see the emotion in his face and his eyes as he's telling some of the stories he told, it's like, I'm so appreciative for that. I mean, obviously, because it wasn't for y'all that served before me, I wouldn't have had the freedoms I had growing up. You know what I mean? And even today, as a police officer, the police officers that served before I did, you know, streets wouldn't have been as safe as they were for me.
No,
you know.
100%. 100%. No, I agree. Well, here, let's have a little toast. So you making it?
Thank you.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you for being here. Welcome to Chicago.
Thank you for having me.
The glass you got is donated by Spring Whiskey Stones.
That's awesome.
They are a company here based in Chicago. Chicago police officer who does these on the side company. The glass I have is OPIF. They are Operation Pay It Forward. They're giving you a pig hunt in September in Texas. So you're allowed to bring a veteran with you. So you got a buddy, somebody you want to fly in, whatever, they'll cover most of the cost.
That's awesome.
For both of you guys. And if you drive there from where you're at, because I imagine whoever you bring in, and then they'll cover your gas and everything. Then you stay in the lodge,
amazing.
do a pig hunt. I tried to get you a helicopter one, but they didn't have it. So we'll work on that
No,
later.
that's great.
But that's who donated the glasses, guys. Pete's got one I brought back from New York, the 9/11 tribute. That was an awesome glass too. So I'm glad we can sit here and share with you.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's amazing.
So if I get you airborne to a hospital, you said you went from Baghdad or somewhere to Baghdad?
Balad, Fallujah, Balad, Baghdad, and then woke up in Germany.
Are you stopping at different hospitals every time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like the little whatever medical unit they had there at that time. They're kind of just, I guess, triaging us the more we get there, and then wake up in Longstool.
Okay, and then you hit Germany. Is that like one of your longest stints in the hospital?
No, Germany. I think I was only there for about 48 hours, but that's when, like I said, I'm still obviously groggy from all the dope and everything they're giving me. But that's when I can first talk to somebody and actually remember talking to them. And I thought that was the first time I was gonna be able to call home and tell them, like, hey, I got hurt, you know, kind of thing. And obviously, I don't want to tell them, hey, I just had my legs blown off,
Right,
you know
right.
what I mean? So I thought I'd break it to her. But by the time I finally got a hold of her, she was crying. So she had already known. You know, obviously, the command had called her and informed her that I was injured. But she actually told me they got disconnected, like big phone call. So they told her I'd been in an accident, and they lost connection. So she's like, is he dead? Is you know, what's going on?
Horrifying.
So my stepdad has to take over the phone call once they finally get on, and then you know, obviously my brothers told me, like, oh, we were here during this. You know, it happened to be my brother's wedding anniversary, the day I got hurt. So they're all kind of telling me their account of how they found out and what happened. And my mom's telling me that the neighbors had to come out because they heard her screaming and fall to the floor. Like, what's going on? Obviously, they knew I was deployed. So
I imagine it's got to be somewhere similar to like 9/11. I think everybody in this country knows where they're at, the time they were there.
absolutely.
During 9/11. So for your family, Dad had to be like, I know what I was doing when I got the word.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I don't mind hearing their stories about what happened, you know, and obviously now it's going to be 15 years, so I have no issues talking about any of it. You know, in the beginning, it was hard for me. You know, like I said, when I finally realized that my legs are gone, looking down, I was like, where are my feet?
Where were you at that point?
What,
You realized you had no
in
legs?
Germany. Yeah, that's when I woke up in
Oh, so
Germany.
you were so many hospitals, in and out of it?
Right.
Probably
So
drugged up?
I really don't remember Balad, Baghdad at all. I remember hearing the helicopter, and I remember looking up, and I saw a helmet. So like somebody, it's nighttime, and obviously I can't talk to them, have a conversation with them. I remember doing that, and then I remember, like I said, waking up in Germany. There was a lady there whose name was Mary Ann, which is my mom's name. So when they said, hey, Mary Ann's gonna come in here, I'm thinking, what's my mom doing here? You know, I'm thinking she's gonna be here. But she was with a organization called Soldiers Angels that my cousin, who was a member of back here in the States, so he actually got a hold of her and said, hey, can you go with him?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and she was like, hey, you know, David sent me here to you know, come be with you. Yeah, so that was pretty amazing, like how, you know, connections like that, you know?
Yeah. It makes you get that home feeling, like
Oh,
I know
absolutely.
somebody down there. Somebody knows this person back home.
It is exactly what it felt like. A piece of home is here because
Yeah.
they know my family back home. And she still messages me to this day, you know, like, hey, how's it going every now and then. So it was amazing for that.
I'll tell you what, there's some great human beings in this fucking country.
Absolutely.
You gotta love them.
She dealt with my bullshit. I mean, because I gave everybody a hard time there, not meaning to. I think the first time that I actually did something like that I regretted, that obviously I would never do in a million years on a normal day, was a nurse saying that, hey, you're gonna be okay, kind of thing, trying to reassure me. I was like, yeah, it's easy, you have your legs, you didn't have your legs blown off, you know. And like, in a million years would I ever say that to anybody or try to do that to somebody on purpose.
She gotta understand. I think
did.
any human being would.
Yeah.
Like, I get it.
Yeah, but she was in
Right
tears after I made that comment,
Oh.
and I felt like shit, and I still do to the
Yeah.
day, to this lady. And I don't know who she was, but I remember feeling like shit when I said that. But like I said, this is when I started coming to the realization of like, man, my legs are gone. I'm gonna be in the wheelchair for the rest of my life. Nobody's gonna want to be with me, you know, kind of thing. It's like, you know, and then I started thinking about my kid, my son. He was 2 at the time. They're gonna make fun of him growing up because his dad's different. You know, his dad's in a wheelchair. His dad has no legs, or they're gonna keep asking him like, why is your dad like that? What's wrong with your dad? But the one thing I did remember telling my mom was that every time I'd go get a tattoo, I'd want to get a tattoo, she says, it better say mom, better say mom. I was like, oh, whatever. So I told her, I was like, hey, I got some good news. And I finally got that mom tattoo, you know. And bad news is I got it on top of my foot. So they, you know, it's no longer there. So she hit the shit out of me for that one when I got home. Yeah, so they flew me from there to Bethesda, Maryland. And my family was there waiting on me when I got there. And the first thing, they wheeled me off of the plane. So I have an older brother, and I did the younger brother thing. He had, like, his clothes were cooler than mine. So he'd go off to high school, I was in middle school, I'd go put his shirts on, whatever, wear them to school. I'd haul ass home real quick, take it off, put it back on the hanger, and put it back before he got home from practice. And he'd always say, like, hey, it smells kind of funny, like somebody's been sweating in it. And I was like, yeah, I did. So I asked my brother when they wheeled me, I was like, hey, is that my shirt? So my mom was like, you asshole, like, you're gonna be okay, you know, like, he's fine. That was just our little thing that we did, you know. But I spent about a month and a half in Bethesda having surgeries every other day there because they had to do revisions and clean out my legs because I ended up catching MRSA from the infections, and they had to amputate a little bit more. But that was the first time I was able to see my kid again, and that gave me, that put my mind at ease a lot of that, man, like, what's he gonna think, or what's somebody, because he was just happy his dad was home.
Yeah.
You know, so that really helped me out.
Now, does the family rotate, stay up there with you, or how's that work? Did they all go back home for a little bit, then come back, or?
They stayed there for the most part. At this point, my younger brother, he's only a couple years younger than me. He was in school, and he had a really good job, but he quit that to take care of me. So he was pretty much there the entire time. Even when I ended up going to San Antonio, he moved there with me. And my little brother, he's always been kind of like really, really thin. So we'd always tease him like, yeah, we never let him eat because my brother and I, my older brother, were always bigger. But he was, literally lifting me up, carrying me to my chair, to my bed, to the toilet. I mean, he's wiping my ass. You know what I mean? Like all my family did. And to me, it was kind of humiliating. But they were like, don't even talk about it. Don't mention it. Like we're family. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm so thankful for all of my family. But especially him, for how do you quit a job and, put your life on hold to take care of me,
Right. That's amazing. That's
I mean,
your brother, that's for sure.
I mean, all my family's been that way. None of them ever thought twice about, being there in that time or any other time that I've needed. But yeah, so I in Bethesda, I got to meet President Bush. He presented me my Purple Heart at the hospital.
That's awesome.
So that was pretty cool. I mean, you get to meet a
you
standing president. Yeah. Especially a standing president. So it's, they didn't tell us much that he was coming. They were just kind of locking the hospital down little by little. We're like, what the hell's going on here? And like, oh, somebody's coming by to see you tomorrow. I was like, okay, cool. And then the day of, like, hey, President Bush is coming by. I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And then so that we were allowed to have some guests in there. My mom, my brothers, my sister. And he comes in, finds out we're from Texas. We got like Dallas Cowboy stuff and Texas Rangers. And a lot of people ask, like, how was it? How was he? You see him on TV. He was, honestly, in my opinion, he was a great person because he stayed in there and talked to us. He's going room to room, seeing all these people with missing limbs, burnt bodies, stuff like that, barely hanging on to life. And you can see like almost his eyes are getting kind of watery.
Okay.
I think there's a sense of, man, like I made the decision to send these people over here, and this is how they're coming home.
Right. I can imagine the feeling.
Yeah, and he, like I said, he was very genuine. He stayed in there. He shared some jokes with us, found out we were from Texas, and talked about Texas things. And even when the Secret Service agents were like, "Sir, we need to go," he's like, "Wait," he stayed there and talked to us. He spoke Spanish to my mom for a little bit. What I mean? He stood at attention while they're reading my award for the Purple Heart.
Bush did?
Yeah,
no
absolutely. And then he pins it on me, and I mean, he sits there and talks. So I was like, somebody asked me once, what would you say to him if you were saw me? And I'd tell him thank you for being a human being. You know what I mean? There was no cameras in there. There was no, his personal camera,
right? So
we could have a picture. There was no media coverage. He wasn't doing it for the media. He was doing it just because.
Well, that's awesome.
That's what he wanted to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. From there, I ended up going to San Antonio, where I started my therapy. So I had a choice to go to California or San Antonio. And being from Fort Worth, it's only a 4-hour drive, so I can go home on the weekends. Family can come up. So I spent about a year and a half there at the CFI at Brook Army Medical Center, learn how to walk again, and just learn how to live life.
Yeah.
So that was, like I said, my younger brother lived there with me pretty much the entire time, took care of me, made sure I made all my appointments, made sure everything I needed was taken care of. Even his girlfriend at the time, which is his wife now, she's a little firecracker. There was an issue with my bed, and she was like ready to fight all the nurses, and I'm just like, dude, calm down, relax. And there's the point where they wanted to kick her out of the hospital.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've had nothing but great support from my family. Even now, like my wife is absolutely amazing. We have 4 kids now. I couldn't do anything without her and them.
Well, let's get into that. So you're doing your therapy. You're back home, pretty much. You had the one boy. When did you start getting your second, third kid?
So there's a 10-year gap difference between my son and my oldest daughter.
Really?
Yeah. So he's about to be 17. She just turned 7. And then there's a 5-year-old and the baby. She's 2. She'll be 3 in September as well. So we have 2 March babies, 2 September babies. But that 2-year-old, she's my boss. Yeah.
And how, there's got to be jokes flying around the house. About legs and stuff like that. You got to be making pranks with them.
Oh, I try to make light of the situation anytime I get. Like even if I'm out, wearing jeans, I'll turn one leg around and I'll stand there. Even my police graduation at the very end, we're doing the final inspection, and I did it for our instructors. I'm in the very end, the very last one. I flipped one around and said, we're in full uniform. They're coming by, and our lead instructor, he double takes. He's like, you motherfucker, and then he's like, wait to do it for Tig, another one of the instructors. See what he says. Like, okay. So then Tig comes by and he's looking. He's like, oh shit. He's like, I bet you won't do that in front of the chief on the actual graduation. I was like, well, if I know that he won't fire me, I may do it, but I know my wife will whip my ass because she doesn't like all that stuff. But yeah, I try to have fun with it. I've been able to use it on the job now to help people realize, like, hey, like, wow, like, you're still able to do this, you know. And if I can help somebody, like, motivate them in any way, I want to do it, you know, because I've had my own personal motivations throughout this whole process that, you know, I want to be that for somebody else.
You were talking, you were in the hospital and you're going through a magazine and you come across this 5-year-old boy who was a double amputee.
Right.
And you said it looked on the photos like he's having a good time, and it made you think twice about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, I'm feeling sorry for myself. And while I was still in Bethesda, it's like, at that point, I'm being in a wheelchair the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I knew what prosthetic legs or prosthetic limbs were, but I never thought I'd have to use them. And I see this kid running down the hospital, in Children's Hospital, in 2 legs. I'm just like, what the hell, man? Like, I have nothing to bitch about. I've had 22 years on my legs. This kid really hasn't had anything. This is all he knows. This is what he's got to live his rest of his life with.
And he's dealing with it. I mean, but still to see that young age.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what gave me some motivation too. It's like, man, this kid is a hero for me in my eyes, you know, to see that. And then, you know, obviously there was times that I'd go through fits of like, man, I feel sorry. Like, I'd be very emotional. I'd be crying. And it was hard for my mom to see that. She'd have to step out in the hallway. And there was a guy, asked her, hey, what's going on? She told him, and he was like, hey, I'm gonna send somebody up here. A guy walks in, he's a Marine, he's double amputee, and he's like, dude, like, I've been exactly where you're at, man. He's like, I get it, I understand it. He said, but your life isn't over. He's like, I've been there. I've tried out for a Major League Baseball team. I snow ski, I water ski, I skydive, I rock climb. He said, anything you want to do, you can do it.
Right.
He actually did pretty well from what he told me on that Major League tryout. So I was like, that's pretty amazing. And me being a baseball guy.
And going back to that nurse, you said, well, it's easy for you to say you got 2 legs.
Right.
You want to hear from somebody that's been through what you're going through. You didn't mean to take it out on her, but here's a guy that's got 2 legs. Yeah. And he's telling you, listen, there's a better life than this.
Right.
And you got to take that to heart and say, okay, I mean, you got to try at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been in the fortunate position where I've been able to do that as well. Like, I've gone back to visit that hospital and I've asked, hey, is there anybody on the floor? You know, and there has been. You know, I can go in there and tell them, like, hey, I know exactly where you are because I've been there.
Right.
You know, and it's not until they see that their eyes light up, because up until that point you have, you know, doctors that'll tell you, you know, hey, man, I know how you feel, or I know how you must feel. It's like, no, because your book that you went to school for told you I'm supposed to say this at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, unless you've actually been through it, you can't know exactly how I feel, you know, even as an officer now. So it's like, I've been able to, some people are like, man, my life's so rough and this and this and that. With something I've learned is somebody out there has it worse than you do. You know, me being in San Antonio at Brooke Army Medical Center, it's also like one of the #1 burn centers that we have. Those guys have it far worse than I do. I can put on a pair of jeans and nobody's really going to notice. You can't hide, you know, your body being burned 90% of your body.
Well, there's the one Army guy.
Crispy, Omar Avila.
The comedian?
Which one are you talking about? Bobby Henline?
Yeah, Bobby Henline.
Bobby, yeah. I met him a few times.
He's like a full-time comedian now.
Yeah.
He talks about it. He's like,
yeah.
I think that's therapy for people.
It is. I mean, some people say like, oh, I kind of make jokes about myself because everybody's going to do it anyway kind of thing. You know what I mean? But he does that. I mean, he's a great person. If you talk to him on the side, I've met him at a few events. Another buddy of mine, Omar Avila, he calls himself Crispy. Like we used to call him Bacon. Like all of us, like we're all in the hospital together. He's another great guy. He hasn't let anything stop him. Good. But I was fortunate enough too that my son grew up around seeing burnt bodies and amputees, so it's nothing new to him. You know what I mean? So kids can be kind of cruel, not meaning to, but they just don't know. You know, they make comments. Sometimes it's kind of funny, you know, but he grew up around it. So to him, he was like, hey, you know, what's going on? Just like normal, any other person.
What way for a kid to maybe deal with something tragic down the line on their own?
Right, and that's
a shell built up where.
Yeah, that's exactly another huge motivating factor for me to not give up, because now I have all these kids watching me. So if they're ever faced with anything in their life, like, okay, do I quit? Or can I look at my dad? He's been through all this and he at least gave it a shot. Do I at least give it a shot? Yeah, I think I'm be more pushed towards giving it a shot, or whatever it is they want to do, versus just up and quitting just because, man, I don't know if I can do this, because I've been there. But hopefully me accomplishing this stuff that I've always wanted to do can show them like, you can do it. And I told my son those words the day he pinned my badge on me that I graduated the academy. Him and my wife did. I hugged him so tight and I was like, dude, you can do it. You can do anything you want to do. You just got to bust your ass for it.
I believe that.
For the prosthetics, I bet that was like an ordeal. We see different ones. I see those ones that guys are running and like.
Yeah, so which is ultimately what these are. It just has a heel on it. You know, I've been through different sets of legs. Obviously, my body's changed, and I wanted to be a police officer at a young age. I was in the Explorer program that we had in Fort Worth. I had one of my advisors, amazing advisors everyone that I had there, but one in particular kind of stood out to me and helped me out a lot when I was younger. Yeah, I want to be a cop like him one day. I want to be in Fort Worth. I want to serve my country and then come home, serve my community that I grew up in. And fortunately, he was killed in the line of duty on my first deployment, and my mom was able to tell me over the phone. And his portrait is in our academy. And so as soon as you walk in, we have all the portraits. Hank Nava, Henry Nava. His birthday is actually today. So, you know, we see his portrait in there with all the other officers that we've lost since the beginning of the department. And every day that I would go in there, it's like, man, like one more day down. Like, I can feel you. You're helping me through this. Yeah. And the day I graduated, I was like, we did it. Like, we fucking did it. You know, like I passed the T-Cole and all that. And
now, what came first? You playing baseball or the police department?
So we played baseball our whole life.
No, but I'm saying after the accident.
Right. No, yeah.
Because I imagine you're thinking, I can never play baseball again.
No, yeah. We were, my wife and I were on a trip for the All-Star game in New York, and we were on the Intrepid, the battleship Intrepid. And in our hotel room earlier that day, we saw the celebrity softball game. There's two guys, amputees. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Like, how do they get to do this? I happened to see those two guys on the ship at the party that night. I was like, hey, you're the guys that were playing the celebrity game. Like, yeah, that's us. I was like, how do y'all do that? And they told me about the team. They're like, here, talk to this guy, which is the manager of the team at that time. And I was wearing slacks and shoes, and I asked the guy about it. He's like, oh, we got to be a veteran amputee. And I was like, well, I am a veteran amputee. And I lost both my legs. He's like, oh, shit, well, give me a call. And then Kevin Minch, a guy who used to play for the Rangers, played for Nationals as well. He lives not too far away from me, and he was helping out with the team. So he was like, here, I'm going to have you meet up with this guy, take some ground balls, see if you can, you know, if you can play.
Right.
So I did that, and then ended up joining the team not too long after. So it's the USA Patriots. It used to be the Wounded Warrior Amputee softball team, all veterans, different types of amputations. Play only able-bodied teams, so travel the country and just play softball, you know. And in addition to that, we have a kids camp every year, so we get about like 15, 20 kids that are amputees, bring them and their families in and teach them softball, but also like different everyday skills. Because a lot of these kids, like I said, they have their amputations at young ages. So unfortunately, there's a lot of bullies that, you know, what's wrong with you, or call them nicknames or whatever like that. So we have one of our guys who's missing his entire arm. He'll go with the one-arm kid. He's like, hey, this is how I tie my shoes. If you want to try it, this works for me, kind of thing. Kind of teach them new life skills. And then we hear from the parents that, like, dude, their attitude has changed completely ever since camp. One of the kids that used to be a former camper is a member of the team now that he turned 18. So it's awesome to see. Yeah. You know, his accident, unfortunately, he was one of those one-armed guys when he was 2, fell under his dad's lawnmower while he was mowing, you know.
Okay.
But I mean, stuff like that is to see these kids' eyes light up. You know, it's so much rewarding for us.
Well, we got a little thing donated by the Sharkey family. Mm-hmm. They want to give back, and they're giving us 4 tickets for tonight's game at the Wrigley Field, the 1914 seats, which, from what I understand, I've never been there, but are the top seats in the house. You can go in, your own entrance, you go down there, it's like all inclusive. And we'll sit somewhere behind the dugout or behind the home plate. So it should be a nice game.
Make sure you call home because we'll be on TV. They say we're going to be on TV.
They gotta watch the game. They gotta watch the game. They say you're in almost every pitch.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
That's gonna be amazing. I mean, like I said, we're a baseball family, and then Wrigley's such a historic place, you know, to be able to do that.
And hey, thank you to the Sharkey family for donating those tickets.
Thank you.
We appreciate
it. Amazing. Yeah, I know my brother's gonna be jealous.
I mean, the people, they're great seats, and it's like anything else. It's not everyone can do them.
Right.
You know, they're season ticket holders, and they're the ones who have them, and that's it. They don't go. I don't think they go online for sale or anything like that.
Right. No, that's amazing.
Cool.
Looking forward to that.
So,
real quick, I'm gonna interject. Got about 10 minutes to that full hour. There's still the Hampton.
I'll get that at the very end. Just a quick shout out.
That's fine. I didn't know if you need to talk about becoming a police officer.
That's where I'm at.
That's where we really have to go into that.
And then we'll wrap it up with like looking at a few photos the same way.
Okay, he started winning to baseball, so I geared it. I just followed him through.
I'm rejogging your memory.
The only question I'm going to have is, because I was talking to Zach earlier, what your plans for the future in the department are.
Well,
That's
bring
the
it
only
up. Bring
question.
up.
Yeah, before you
start it now. Like,
well, no, I'd go into, and then I'll interject when you're going in for later on, right before we end it is what I'm saying.
all right, Zach. So, playing baseball. What is the procedure for you to start being a forward police officer? What made you say, "Listen, I can do this"?
Well, like I said, when I was in the Explore program, and they taught us about, this is kind of what it's like. Good, take us to competitions and teach us how to deal with that. Having those positive role models that I had, it was always a dream to do that. Obviously, after losing my legs, it kind of takes me back a little bit and like, man, how possible is this really? Because I've never heard of an amputee police officer. Before I joined, a buddy of mine from the softball team had just graduated in New York as the first double amputee police officer in our country.
No, Suffolk County, correct?
Yeah, so Matthias,
He was the first one?
He's the first
And
one.
then you're the second one.
So yeah, so that gave me the motivation, like it's possible, So
Yeah.
I would pick his brain, like, hey man, how'd you do with your legs? Like what'd you have to, do this and that? And then when I brought it up to my academy, I expected there to be some blowback and be like, it's probably not a good idea. Probably, gonna be too hard for you to do or something like that. But I personally was never met with anything like that. Nothing but support from the very beginning. And that's obviously something new for them. They've never had it. So they actually got in contact with Matthias's department just to kind of pick their brains a little bit, like, hey, how did this work for y'all? What are kind of some limitations or something like that? And I didn't want any type of special treatment. I wanted my classmates and other officers to be like, hey, he did everything we did.
Well, wasn't that one of the requirements that you had to do everything they
Absolutely.
did?
Yeah. And I wouldn't want any other way because
Right.
I don't want an officer,
Right.
If I show up on their call, they're going to have doubt about me doing that. You know what I mean? But I'll chase somebody just the same way as anybody else does. You know what I mean? If I have to do it, I have to do it.
Right.
Because
So
it's
you-
not just
you
my
just-
life, it's somebody else's.
You just said about if you have to chase somebody.
Right.
So Dan Ryan was on the Forward Police Department.
Yeah.
He's from Chicago, but he back in April. Remember meeting me at the
Yeah, in
White
Suckers.
Elephant?
Yeah.
He had told me that night or the night before you had just got into a foot chase with him.
Yep.
Now, I'm not trying to bust your balls or anything, but do you catch a lot of guys?
Haven't like flat out just lost somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you do catch somebody, right? Do you fucking fuck with them? Do you say, "Listen, motherfucker, I got no legs and I caught you"?
I haven't done it.
Slow.
Yeah, I haven't personally said that to anybody, but
Well,
it
I
does
would do
make
it all
me
the
feel
time.
good. It does make me feel good to be
Yeah.
like, hey, it's cool. That call actually, the guys kind of got away from us, and then we had everyone looking for him. The guy ended up coming out on his own a little bit later, but.
Me personally, you can ask Pete. I hated losing anybody in a foot chase.
Oh, yeah,
Hated it.
that feeling is horrible because, did they run in somebody's house? Did they do this? Are they dumping stuff?
Right. And the bigger the crime, the worse I felt about it. If
Yeah.
I lost them,
Yeah, but this
It
guy.
happens to everybody.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose somebody.
Yeah, that call with Ryan, and he's like, dude, sorry I got you in that. I was like, dude, I'd rather be there with you than you be by yourself.
Yeah,
And that
no,
goes for
100%.
anybody else.
Always power in numbers.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, why are we chasing the guy? But if I see you running, I'm going to go running too. I'll find out why we're chasing in a minute, but it's kind of one of those deals. Yeah, I mean, it has to do with a lot of attitude. It's like my own personal mentality and how I've got to this point because I said earlier, like, I hate talking to doctors, but there was one guy who really put things into perspective for me when I was in San Antonio. We go out with my family, go out to eat. I'm in a wheelchair, don't have my legs yet. I'm looking around, and people are staring at me. So I'm pissed. Like, I'm to the point of tears. I'm like, people keep staring at me. Like, stop fucking staring at me. I just want to be here.
Yeah.
I tell this therapist because we had to see him once a week, and he's like, "Dude, it's your fault." Why the fuck is it my? Like, why would you say it's my fault? He's like, "Because you're not enjoying the fact that you're still alive. You're not enjoying that you're with your family. You're too busy focusing on all this negative stuff that you're letting it take away from all this good that's happening." I was like, "Dude, that makes sense." So I couldn't, going through the academy, I couldn't think about all this negative stuff. I had to think about, man, I'm still here. I want to do it while my body allows me to do
Right.
it.
And what's your wife's name?
Stacy.
Stacy.
Yeah.
She's gotta be a gem.
She is an absolute blessing to me. We were really good friends in high school.
Yeah.
We never dated. We always dated other people. She went off to college. I went off to the military. We kind of lost touch a little bit. Ended up running into each other again.
Because I can
on a
imagine
whim.
that happening, and then there's got to be moments where you're fucking cranky like a motherfucker.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
You're just miserable, and she's got to deal with that. You know what
I mean, like
Even
I
the
said,
kids.
she is definitely the rock that that holds me down, the glue that holds us all together. Because it's not hard. I mean, it's not easy by any means to deal with 3 younger girls and a teenager, you know. And a lot of the time she does a lot on her own, you know. Unfortunately, like, I'm not there as much as I can be, you know what I mean, just either because work, you know, it's not guaranteed that I get off at 6 a.m. or when I worked evenings on the rougher side of town, it's not guaranteed that I get off at midnight. A shooting can come out right before I get off, or, you know, some kind of big call, stabbing or something, and I have to go work it. You know, I may get home 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. But she does amazing. She's definitely, like,
That's awesome.
going through the academy and stuff like that. It's not easy because I get home, I'm tired, I'm studying.
Your uniform squared away, everything.
And studying. I mean, that, for me, that was hard because I hadn't been in school in over 10 years.
People don't realize that when you go to the academy, it's not easy.
No, not at all. Especially, like I said, if it's been a while since you've been in school.
You gotta know it, because if you don't know it, you're not getting on the job.
No, absolutely.
Especially if you have kids or family, you know, single, it's easy kind of. It's a lot easier for the single people. But.
Yeah, but I mean, I still had to come home and be a husband and father, you know, and it was tough, but she supported me the entire way. You know, she never complained about it really. So it's like, you know, couldn't have done it without her. Still can't do it every day without her.
And the academy was like hard, but
it was hard. I mean, it was hard on people with their legs. You know what I mean? That we had people fell out, they couldn't finish it. But like I said, I can't let them see me give up. I can't let them see me do this. And if I didn't pass it, my kids saw me at least try and not stop on my dream of wanting to be a police officer. I lost a lot of weight in the academy, so my leg shape changed. I dealt with a lot of blistering and bleeding, like pretty much daily. So I'd come home, I had to ice my legs because they'd be swollen.
And probably nobody knows about this. You're not complaining about it while you're at the academy.
No.
You get home and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, they eventually knew because I'd have to clean up, or I'd be in the shower afterwards and it'd be bleeding, and I'd have to get one of my classmates like, hey, can you go give me a Band-Aid? Can you go give me some stuff to clean this up? And there'd be a couple of times that our TAC meds would be there for training anyways, and they'd come help patch me up. And there would be times the instructors are like, hey, you're not running today, go get on the machine. It's like, I have to run. I want to run. I have to run. I have to run. You know, I have to do this. I have to be with them to see me. But there were some days like I mean, it wasn't just me. Some people like sprain their knees, sprain their ankles, or, you know, something, my hamstring, they'd be on the row machine too. So it wasn't like they did this specifically special just for me. But, you know, dealing with all that, obviously there's some things I have to do differently. But they were there to, hey, let's try this way. So like our ground tactics and stuff like that, my legs don't bend the way everybody else's does. But fortunately, we have knowledgeable trainers who, you know, do mixed martial arts on the daily that are very proficient in what they do. Right away, he's like, here, try this way instead. You know, it's just another way, another tool on your belt to use, you know. So that I was very fortunate for that. And like I said, all the way from the chief down, everybody's been amazing. The citizens I've been in contact with, there's people like, hey, weren't you the guy we saw on the news? Like, yeah, like, dude, that's amazing. That's awesome. I've gotten letters from people across the country that, hey, we saw your news or your story on CNN, or we saw this on that. You know, that's amazing. We appreciate it. And some people have been like, man, I was having a hard time, but I saw your story. You're able to accomplish this. Thank you. So to me, I was like, okay, it's already working to help other people. And even in the recruiting process, to like, some people like, man, I hurt my knee, you know, a long time ago. I don't know if I can do it. I was like, hey, tell me you can't do it. Tell me why you really can't do it. Because I tell the new recruits that come in when I'm able to talk to them, you have to learn the difference between pain, like, or, oh, fuck, this hurts, like something's wrong.
It's like running through a cramp.
Yeah.
People think they can't do it, they gotta stop.
Yeah.
You keep running, it'll go away.
And then somebody said that, like, didn't know who I was. They're like, man, my foot hurts. And the kind of instructors kind of look at me, like, kind of smile, like, okay, tell them, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, it's like, you have to, like, find the difference in how bad you really want this, you know? So it's like, you're not gonna let much get in your way if you really want to do this job. And I tell them too, it's like, I don't come from a lot of police experience. I'm barely gonna hit 2 years. But from what I have learned so far is that this is more than just TV. This is more than, you know, some of these people that you arrest, they don't want to go back to jail. Like, they hate us in the first place anyway, some people.
Right.
You know, so you always have to be mindful of who you're dealing with.
That's the worst one, the one that doesn't want to go back.
Yeah, so they already know ahead of time, you know, like, hey, I'm not going back. Even if I have no idea of their criminal history, whatever. Right. If I just be like, hey, man, do you mind if they already have it in their mind, they're coming to talk to me, if like he's going to arrest me. So it's either a fight or they're running.
Right.
So, you know, that's what I'm able to tell them is that you really have to pay attention to your surroundings and, you know, people's mannerisms. And one thing too is like, just be personal with people. People are people, they're human beings, you know, treat everybody with respect. You know, you never know that they could be the ones later on, which has happened too. Go in a rough neighborhood and somebody that I've spoken to before, they've stopped other people from getting pissed off. But hey, you know, this guy's cool. Like, just talk to him. He's cool. He's cool. He's not gonna mess with you.
Yeah.
So I've been very fortunate with that, and that was something that was relayed to me early on, and I took that to heart. And I was, shit, this doesn't work. Just talk to people. You know.
So you made it through the academy. That's probably one of the hardest things in police work. Get on the job kind of thing. So now you're kind of like, you can do whatever you want. So what do you think you want to do? Like Rick stayed in patrol, you know, his whole career. What's the future for you?
The gang unit was where I've always wanted to go, and that's where I want to go now. I grew up in kind of rough part of town. There's a lot of gangs around there, and fortunately we got introduced to sports at a young age, so that kept me out of that. And I want to be that for kids who think, man, this is a cool thing to do. It's really not that cool to do. You know what I mean? You're going to end up dead, end up in jail for what? You know, just because you thought you were cool, but your buddies aren't going to be there for you as soon as you know, go to jail. They're not going to remember you when you're dead. So they're, you know, what good do you do? So like I said, it's all about helping people, motivating others, and, you know, just spreading a message that you may get, like for my situation, other kids, other people, like, oh, you're disabled, you can't do this, you're handicapped, you can't do this. You know, I've been labeled that for going on 15 years now. But one thing that I've come to learn, and then kind of the mentality I've adopted is, yeah, I'm a little different, you know, obviously, but I don't consider myself handicapped. I don't consider myself, you know, disabled. You know,
Right.
My thing is I've heard from somebody else, like, couldn't have said it any more perfect. I'm healed. You know what I mean? Because I know now that I'm so much stronger than I ever was before. Because before this, I was like, man, I don't know if I could ever deal with this. I don't know if I can ever deal with that. I know now that I can deal with something like this, and it's not going to stop me. You know what I mean? So it's like, I want to spread that message to other people. It's like, dude, you can overcome so much. You just got to bust your ass for it if you really want it, you know?
One of the things when we talked before you come to Chicago, I was asking you some of the things you wanted to do here. One of the things you said you wanted to eat a steak, right? So Blue Star Security is back on the wall there. Anthony, Jeff, and John, they want to treat you a dinner at Gibson Steakhouse. It's one of the top 5 steakhouses in the city, I would say, in the area. So tomorrow night, they're treating us to a dinner at the steakhouse. So we're doing that. We want to give a shout out to the Hampton by Hilton. Jeanette there you came in, and I approached them that you were coming in, and if they can help us out. I wasn't looking for a freebie, but she decided to comp all 3 nights that you're going to be here. So thank you to the Hampton by Hilton. Thank you, Blue Star. Thanks for the glasses from OPIF and from Spring Whiskey. So Zach, for our viewers, young kids to people just joining service, police departments, what's your message to them?
I mean, I think you hear it a lot, and one thing I like to say, like, tomorrow's never promised. We never know what's going to happen from one minute to the next, you know? So take advantage of the life that we're given. Be a positive message for somebody else, because you never know what somebody else is dealing with or maybe going through. Kind of try to keep in mind, like, yeah, you may be going through a rough time, but somebody does have it worse than what we think we have it. So like I said, I want my kids to remember that long after I'm gone, to keep spreading on, you know, to other people, and to be that positive influence for somebody else. They may, whether they know it or not, you know, hopefully change somebody else's life for the better every day, and just kind of, you know, make this world a better place.
Like I said, Zach, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Coming all this way to sit down with us and tell us your story. Amazing story. We're glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate everything. Everything's
Awesome.
been
Thanks for being
top
here.
notch. Thank you.